Welcome back to Home Design Studio. In this chapter we are going to look on how to set the units and then how to create the grid for our residential project. But before I continue with this video, I would like you to like this tutorial because it really helps me a lot. And if you have not already, please subscribe because I make tutorials like this twice or 3 times a week. Alright, let us now get started. To set the units, we are going to go to Manage and then to Project Units. And on this dialog, we can now set many units here. But I would prefer to first of all set the area, the length, and the volume, because these are the ones that I'm going to need in my particular project. Now let's go to area, click once, and on this palette we are going to set the units from square inches to square meters, and then on the rounding I will go to 2 decimal places, and on the unit symbol I will use square meters, and then I will click OK. Let's now set the length. I will prefer to set the length into meters also. Then the decimal places, I will put 2 decimal places, and the units I will use meters. I will click OK. Also, let us go to volume. Then I will change from cubic inches to cubic meters, then change the decimal places into 2, and then I will use cubic meters as the unit symbol. I will then click OK, and then I will click OK to finish. Now let us go to creation of the grids. To create the grids, I will go to architecture, and then here to data I will click on the grid. After clicking on the grid, you will see that we have this modify palette here, where you can either decide if you want some offset. You can see by default that we have 0 meter as offset, and I prefer to leave it like that because I do not need any offset. Now we'll use the drafting method. We have 4 drafting methods. 1 is line, 2 is arcs, and the other one is the pick line. But for simplicity purposes, we are going to use the line method. To start with, we are going to start with the horizontal grids, and then after we will create our vertical grids. Now let us go to line method and then start from the left to the right to left, and we will create our first grid. Let us cancel twice to see our grid. You can see that we have grid number 2, but we do not want to start with the grid number 2. I'm going to click on that and then change it into 1, enter, and here we have our first grid. To create our second grid, we are going to use the modify panel and use copy. Let me select that one and then go to copy. I will pick this central point of the grid, and then I will place my second grid at 3.1, and then I will hit enter. Without releasing our mouse, I am going to continue, and our third grid is at 3.75. Let me type in 3.75, and then I will hit enter. And our last horizontal grid is at 7.2. Let me type in 7.2 and then I will click enter, and I will cancel twice to exit the grid creation. Now we have 4 grids. We have 4 horizontal grids, and our next step is to create our vertical grids. Let us go to grid again, and starting from the bottom to top, I will create our first vertical grid. Let us click cancel twice. When you zoom in, you can see that we have grid number 5, but on the vertical grid I do not need numbers, I need letters. Now I will click on that particular grid and then change it into a letter A to have a kind of difference between the horizontal grids and the vertical grids. As we did in the previous, I'm going to create the other grids by copying this particular grid. Let me select this one and then go to copy, pick the central point of the grid and then drag, and then I will type in 2.4 for our second grid, 2.4, and then hit enter. So the next grid is at 4.5. I will type in 4.5. I will hit enter, and the last grid is also at 4.5. I will type in 4.5 and then hit enter. Let us cancel twice to exit the drafting method. Now this is our grid system for that particular residential project, but you can see that we have very long extents. I want to reduce this extents by clicking on one grid. I will be able to stretch the entire grid because we have this alignment method. This type of alignment helps us to change the entire grid in the system. Now I will pick this point here and drag closer to the vertical grids, and when I am satisfied, I will then release the mouse and then click outside to finish. That's it. Now we have created the grid system for our residential project, and in the next chapter we shall look at how to place the walls and the foundation walls using the already created grid system.